get to talk AFL with Alex Caiafa, and he joins us in the studio. And first up, football back, and there's a game tonight.
There is a game tonight. It's no April Fool's joke. We've got Collingwood against Brisbane at Marble Stadium tonight, which game was originally meant to be in Brisbane, but given the whole COVID situation, they've opted to move the game to Melbourne, which, you know, is a safety thing. It's fair enough.
With the threat of COVID, are we likely to see the arrival or the introduction of hubs again?
Well, if it gets really, really bad, I think that's definitely an option. At the moment, it's something that doesn't need to happen, but you know, a lot can change very quickly as we've seen, so it's not out of the realms.
Okay, another big game this weekend, and for a number of reasons, not just that it's a game on Good Friday, but I'm talking about North and the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs are running hot at the moment. This, you know, the Adam Treloar addition has really livened up their midfield. They've got a good 8 or 9 guys who can rack up 30 possessions or more in a game, which is almost unheard of. They're a very prominent team at the moment. They're looking really good.
Now, with the reduction now in interchange, is that going to be helpful? Having that many key players who can distribute the ball?
Especially running through the midfield, yeah, definitely. They've got a lot of depth there, a lot of running capacity, and it's shown in these first 2 games. They've looked really good, the Bulldogs, and they should get up here.
Okay, then we've got to go interstate, and we've got to go and talk about the Crows, who started so well, got caught out last week, but they're taking on the Suns.
They are. The Suns have looked really, really good in their first 2 games. They lost to West Coast down in Perth, but they were very competitive. They did a nice little number on North Melbourne last week. And again, Adelaide, they started off really well. They ran into a hot Sydney team. But I'm tipping the Crows here in Adelaide. There's something different about them this year, and they look really good. Tex Walker's leading the Coleman right now as it is. I don't think anyone would have expected that after the first 2 rounds. He's playing like a revived man. You talk about expectations. There's one team that's jumped out of the blocks.
Not too many people had expectations about the Swans. What's going on? They're taking on Richmond. Are they for real this time round, or are we going to find out this week?
We'll probably find out this week. But you know, we saw in round 1, Sydney beat Brisbane in Brisbane. Not many teams have done that over the last couple of years, and they've jumped out of the blocks really, really quickly. They've just got a new injection of youth. Lance Franklin's back. There's a lot of goodness happening around the Swans at the moment.
This is under the same coach.
It is. They haven't changed. They haven't changed coaches. They haven't done what any other team would normally do.
The game plan looks different. Is it because he's got different soldiers? He's got different young talent who can do different things that he can tweak and change the method?
Yeah, he's got a nice injection of youth, as I said before. They're a lot quicker. And given this new rule with the whole stand on the mark rule, it's making the game a lot quicker, so he's able to take those more risks.
Okay, now let's talk about a couple of teams that have taken a few risks and they've been caught out, namely St Kilda and the Bombers, Essendon.
Well, both teams have a fair few injuries at the moment. It's battle of the healthier lists at the moment. You'd think St Kilda at the moment, they have the much healthier, well, not the much, they have a healthier list. They've probably got a better crop of players on their list than what the Bombers do at the moment. So St Kilda should get that done.
The other team that's jumped out of the blocks, indeed the other 2 teams we're talking about, have promised they were going to be very, very special, and it looks like they are really morphing into 2 very tight units. One's Port Adelaide, the other's the West Coast Eagles, and they're coming up against one another.
They are coming up against each other.
Where's it being played?
It's being played at Optus Stadium in Perth, and we all know how good the Eagles are in Perth. But Port Adelaide are really, really proving themselves. They've jumped out of the blocks very quickly as well. They've had 2 very convincing wins against North Melbourne and Essendon. And, you know, if you're on a tipping, this game is as 50-50 as it gets. You know, do you go with the Eagles at home in WA, or do you go with the probably better form team in Port Adelaide?
If Port Adelaide fronts and gets up, what will it mean to the rest of the competition? Stand by, watch out, Adelaide. Port Adelaide is coming.
I think Port Adelaide are coming already, and if they win this week, it's really going to send an even bigger message. We can't really go off last year's match up between the 2 because they played on the Gold Coast.
Yes.
So it's a bit different. But
they were in hubs at the time.
Now's the real test. But funny enough, Port Adelaide actually have a really, really good record against the Eagles at Optus Stadium. So
they probably match up well, don't they?
It's going to be a very interesting matchup, that's for sure.
I was going to say, do you think they match up better than most teams?
They do, because they've got speed and
they've
they
got
move
height.
the ball quickly. Yeah. So It's going to be an interesting watch.
A couple of teams that look like they've been found out, and I know it's harsh, it's only a couple of weeks in, but a couple of people have said to me at the beginning of the season, Carlton, hey, hey, and a couple of others said Fremantle, hey, hey. They're about to meet one another, and they both haven't won a game.
Yeah. Oh well, no. Fremantle won.
Sorry,
Fremantle won last week against.
I was being harsh.
Yeah. Both teams have got injuries at the moment. You know.
I should add, I'm still traumatised because my Navy Blues haven't won a game.
Oh, I feel your pain. Don't worry. Look, both teams have got injuries. Fremantle are missing. Their superstar Nat Fyfe this week because of concussion being under the protocol, so he won't play this week. Carlton they've got to make a statement. They've got to wake up from whatever they're doing at the moment. They're playing at home. A Fremantle-less without Fyfe. You'd think the Blues can get it done, but Fremantle have shown that they can be a team that can surprise.
You said to me that Collingwood and their coach managed to outcoach our coach David Teague. Is that a fair comment?
That is a very fair comment. He outsmarted Teague by isolating a weakness in Carlton's defence and the movement and the structure that Carlton played defensively, and it exposed them big time. It wasn't a good look, and hopefully the Blues have watched a lot of film on what they did wrong and they can fix it up.
There is a little bit of bright news in that there's a young boy that's been named who hasn't played.
Yeah.
Had to make his debut
Carlton,
for the Navy Blue.
Yeah, Carlton is set to debut their 20-year-old draft pick, Luke Parks. He's an intercept defender. He's built very strongly. He's played really, really well in the reserves and has shown some really flashing signs. So it'll be great to see him at AFL level and see what he can bring to the table.
Look, when you've got problems and you've got youth that's hungry and talented, you've got to give them the exposure, haven't you? To find out. Not just for the one game.
Yeah, you got to blood the youth, and especially given how Carlton have played the first couple of games. They need a new injection. They need a spark, and hopefully these young kids can be the spark.
I would have hoped we could have got some better umpiring, but we won't go there. Let's talk about a team that looking really good, and there are a lot of people who have been long-time members of the MCC. They've been waiting for the Demons to actually look dangerous, and hey, lo and behold, they're looking really good, and they're taking on one of the sides that may have missed a window to the premiership. I'm talking about Greater Western Sydney. Yeah,
GWS, unfortunately, they just look like a team that's bereft of confidence at the moment. They just look in absolute all sorts, and coming up against a hot Melbourne team at the moment, they're just firing on all cylinders. They've got a nice injection of youth in, Caiafa Pickett and guys and James Jordan and kids like that, and led by guys also like Petrarca and Viney and Oliver and Gawn. They're running hot at the moment, and I think they're going to keep that streak going.
Wow. Just think, only a couple of years ago they were that far behind, but they've jumped up. Yeah. A couple of teams though that have been loaded with players and loaded with talent over the years. The Cats, Geelong, up against the Hawks, who have quite possibly the best coach of the last 20 years, Alistair Clarkson. What are you to make of this competition? And I hate this story that some of the pundits were running that the Hawthorn team was going to fix up one of their ex-Hawks players. I would have thought in this day and age, you don't speak like that.
Yeah.
That's not the sort of language you want to use, is it?
No, it's not. And I mean, Isaac Smith is a guy that did so much for the Hawthorn Footy Club. Yeah. He was a part of that three-peat. He was an outstanding player. So to hear a narrative
Silliness.
like that, it is very silly. Geelong, on paper, they look the much better team. They get my tip. But Hawthorn, they've gone in a different direction. They are clearly, going through a bit of a rebuild phase at the moment. But they're actually not going too badly. They won their round one match. They come back from 40 points down against Essendon to win that game. And even against Richmond last week, it took a real Richmond effort in that second half to actually put Hawthorn away. So the Hawks aren't going to be as bad as what some people believe they will be.
Just before we wrap up, the big movers, clearly Sydney, clearly Port Adelaide, clearly Western Eagles. West Coast Eagles,
we got the Eagles, we got the Bulldogs,
and of course the Premiers have all looked the goods.
Yeah.
The teams that have struggled, are they legitimately out of it, or do you think it's a case of the old story? You need that one win to get your season up and running.
Well, I don't think you can count any team out of it yet. We were only 2 rounds into a 23-round season, but if you are 0-3, 0-4 by the first 4 rounds, you're a bit behind the 8 ball already. So they'll be looking for a win or two in the next couple of weeks.
You know, there's one thing I have learned. The AFL is the best hype machine on the planet. Huh? Local competition, not even an international competition, and they still smoke it like the best.
They definitely do. They definitely do.
Alex Caiafa giving us the lowdown on the AFL season, which is a few weeks old, and my goodness, already the storylines are coming at us from every direction. Catch you next week, Alex.
Thanks, George.